All right, here we are, episode number 4, the Outlaw Apostle Show. I am the Outlaw Apostle Troy Neff, your host, and I've really enjoyed this so far. The feedback has been pretty positive. It is okay if you know me to give real feedback. I had my stretch lab person. But I don't know what they call them. Do they call them stretchers?
Like
I
a
have no
physical
idea.
therapist?
They're not really physical therapists. You have to have a degree to be a physical therapist. But they stretch you and they do a good job. It's good. I enjoy Stretch Lab. I really do.
It's a
I do it
stretch
twice.
therapist.
Stretch therapist. Is that what they call stretch
Yeah,
therapist?
that's what they're called.
Okay. I actually saw something. Well, I saw it was on the show Billions. I like Billions. It's a great, fantastic series, and big fan of the show. And the billionaire on the show, I mean, I don't really get the same kind of stretching he does because he was getting it at his penthouse, and the chick stretching him was pretty hot. Okay.
Probably the best
And they
part.
were keeping it to stretching, actually, right? Which is all it is. It's stretching. It's an open area. Everybody gets stretched in this big open space. And, but I was like, that's pretty cool. And I just don't stretch enough. Maybe, I don't know what you all do, but I don't stretch that much in the gym. I will a little bit here and there. I'll grab a bar, I'll pull, I'll hang, I'll do a little bit, but nothing near what I should. And for the time I spend in the gym and the amount of time, you'd think I would have time to do that, but it's if something's going to get missed, you know what's going to get missed? Stretching. Anyways, they're great. If there's a stretch lab around you, check them out. So she mentioned that she watched in both episodes.
Wow, that's pretty amazing.
Yeah,
Not gonna lie.
completely front to back. People are watching the whole thing. And her name's Stephanie. And Stephanie said that what I said, I was a little all over the place. And she had some comments. She thought the whole chase thing was kind of funny.
Yeah, it's a
So,
great laugh. For sure.
Yeah, it was because it was true. Truth is always fucking funny. So she was, and I appreciated her saying that actually, because I realize a lot of people want to support me. And she said the second one was a whole lot better. but I appreciate that. That's real. I expect that, and I can take it. And if you can't take it, then you shouldn't do this kind of shit. I mean, I don't appreciate when people are idiots for no reason. That's totally different. But in this case, when you're talking about constructive analysis, criticism, that I appreciate that she's comfortable with me to be able to tell me what she really thought. And again, I appreciate all the support from everyone else too. And we expect to get better and do more things, and we're going to be improving the opening and having music, and just if this show is like this 6 months from now, we fucked up.
There's an issue.
There's an issue.
There is a big issue.
There's an issue. I'm willing to put in the work. I'm willing to put in the time, as are you. We get to grow and do this together. And it's no different than in business. It's no different than being in the gym. It's no different than being in a relationship. It's putting in the time and putting in the work and enjoying the process, enjoying the journey. Because this idea that there is some destination that we finally reach where I don't know what you do when you reach that. You just, give out this big sigh of relief? Is that what happens? No, it never happens. That never, ever happens. There are no rest stops on the road of life. There are times when you might be broken down. and you got to figure out how to fix it and keep going. It's just life, and it's like that. And the show is going to be about that. And it's going to be about testosterone and dudes with testosterone, as we've talked about. And I enjoy talking about that, and enjoyed especially episode number 3, which is actually up now
Right now.
as we are recording this. It just got put up. So far we seem to be on track. We're recording on Tuesdays and Thursdays. Tuesday shows are being put up on Thursday shows on Tuesdays. Shorts, we're spreading the word a little bit on Facebook. I'm putting up some of the shorts that you've also put up on YouTube. I'm also putting them up on TikTok and seeing if we can get some traction there too. We've actually got, how many subscribers do we have now? Because a number of people have told me that they've watched and subscribed, which I was actually surprised.
So in a total, we have 33 subscribers.
Which I know that might not seem like a lot,
for a week,
but
that is not bad.
From nothing.
Especially for a podcast. Something where people have to actually sit down and listen to it, where it's not just like, you know.
And maybe they're searching for something and it came up and they give it a chance.
Yeah.
And on the other hand, I have built relationships over the years of people who have listened to me on the radio back in Toledo. They follow me on social media because my social media is a little bit different than what a lot of people post. And it tends to be more real and honest and transparent. You know, the good, the bad, the ugly. Although I do have to say and admit that, and I meant to post it, and I probably still will, that I had a little bit of a period of time, and it happened right around the time that I wrecked my new Corvette. And some of you may be hearing this for the first time, that I wrecked my new Corvette. And I've really been enjoying that car too, like way more than I thought I was going to enjoy it. I was coming home from the casino, and it was a night I was a little disappointed. I think I had only won $500 that night, right? But I'd been on a good streak, you know, a good run. I had a couple times where I didn't make anything, but most of the time it was somewhere between $500 and $2,000. The best I had ever done in a day was when I stayed the weekend at Wild Horse Pass, and 2 days in a row I made $3,000 each day, or won, you know, $3,000 each day in about 4 sittings, I think, is about what that took. And so here's how did I wreck it? There's nobody fucking around. Literally nobody. It's midnight, maybe slightly after. I'm at this big intersection, and I get in the right-hand lane, and I realize, what the fuck am I doing in this lane? This isn't my intersection I need to turn right at. And like there's a lane to turn left, there's a lane to turn right, and there's 2 down the middle. So it's big. That's just on my side. It's all the way around like this. And there's nobody around. Nobody. I look in my rearview mirror and I think, I'm just going to back up and slide over to my left, and I'll be good to go. What could go wrong? Flip the little switch, because it's like this little lever is how it is in the car, to reverse. I do not look in my rearview mirror again. My fault. And my fault also is I kind of punched it to back up a little bit, you know? I kind of punched it.
A little bit of a hurry. You know?
I punched it. Bam. Fuck. Did I just hit somebody? But it was short space, even though I, punched it. I just mean I didn't like ease, And yeah, so I hit this young girl. She's probably 20 years old. I don't know. And we exchanged information and everything and got her all good and turned it into my insurance company, everything. But after that, I went to the casino, and I think I won 3,000, maybe 2,000, then 1,000, and then I lost like 15 and 15. Anyways, the next 6 times I was there, I ended up breaking even, but I won, but I lost everything that I had won.
Yeah.
You know, and when you go 6 times and end up at 0, that's the dealers might call that still a win, but that wasn't a win for me. Not the way I had been playing and doing. Saturday night I was back, $1,500, 2 hours.
There you go.
Left.
Only 2 hours?
2 hours.
Yeah,
We had a nice. I could have done it a little longer. I had some things to do.
What's
I
your game
really
of
didn't want to
choice?
leave. My only game now that I play is Baccarat.
Did you start at Baccarat, or did you just kind of move around? Like, how'd you end up with Baccarat?
I've played Baccarat a number of other times over the course of 10, 15 years, whatever, here and there. I played Baccarat mainly because I think Asians are really smart people. And they play it because, well, it's their game. It's a Chinese game, right?
Okay.
So it's their game. And it has the best odds pretty much of any game in the casino.
For payouts?
Basically 50-50
Okay.
almost.
Yeah.
And I've tried to implement some strategies to increase those odds in my favor a little bit.
Okay.
And I've done pretty good at that.
So
and
is it more like close to like a roulette? I'm not too familiar.
yeah,
with
it's a little bit like that, but only roulette in the sense if you're playing black or red.
Okay.
And betting on black or red. There's a player's hand and there's a banker's hand, and you bet on either one. And in the casino that I play at, there's no commission for betting on the banker.
Okay.
In some casinos, there's a commission that you have to deal with too, but that really wouldn't affect my strategy on how I bet and what I do as far as that strategy goes. So, and I usually describe it to people simply like you're betting on the flip of a coin.
Yeah.
You're betting on heads or tails. And so you bet on heads and you win 4 times. And now all of a sudden you think, well, can heads come up 5 times? I'm going to bet tails. And heads comes up 5 times. And 6 and 7. You'd be surprised. And so I have a strategy that works around that and also works around with the maximum, even though we play in the high roller room where at Santan Mountain does have a maximum of 5,000.
Okay.
And the most I have bet on one hand is probably 3,600.
Okay. And was that a winning hand?
Yes.
That's what we love to hear.
No.
And why is that?
Because of my strategy, I did end up okay, but I keep doubling down starting at 25. So I'm just getting my money back.
So you end
And
up
a
at 72.
small gain. So I bet 25 and lost. I bet 50 and lost. 100, 200, 400, 800, 1,600. And then, I guess it was probably 32. Or maybe if I had started at 75, it would go 150, 300. It could have been something like that.
Something
But
like that.
yeah. And my strategy really works. My strategy would work even better if there was no limit on the maximum and I brought 20 grand. But you still have to have balls to ride that out and put that down.
Any sort of gambling with that type of money,
a little bit. And that's small. I'm actually small time with some of the people that are there.
Yeah.
They're betting $1,000 a hand and they're doing hundreds or 1,500 a hand. And they're doing it and guessing. And they're doing it.
They're flipping their own coin on the side.
I don't know. I don't understand it, but I've seen some things so I win slowly and so if I win like that,
mm-hmm.
my next bet might go all the way back down to either $50 or $25.
Okay.
So I'm not just, randomly bet. There's a purpose to the number that I'm putting down. So part of winning in Baccarat isn't really counting cards. It's more of a money management game.
Okay.
And that's really what it is, more of a money management game. And the thing that the dealers have credited me with, which I appreciate, is they say I know when to leave when I'm winning, and I know when to pretty much leave when I'm losing. you know, and not chasing my tail. And that was frustrating during that time when I had
When
that
you're
little
losing
bit
so
when
much,
I
bet.
lost those couple times and was giving it back. But I would have to lose a lot for a period of time because for the year, I think I'm up right around 15,000 for the
That's a
year.
solid number.
So every time I go, I feel like I'm playing with their money every time
Yeah,
I go. So yeah, that's
definitely
not
gives you like
too
a
bad.
different type of confidence,
Yeah.
especially going
So
in
I
that way.
stayed away for a couple of weeks and just went back Saturday and
How was
I
it?
won.
There
But
we
I've
go.
showed people my winnings. This whole point of this whole long story and how I talk and get off track was to say that being transparent, that I needed, I've showed people when I've won, I needed to share when I was losing too. Because
It's
it
only
is
fair.
a part of life. It is part, and I wasn't trying to hide it. I have no reason to hide it. And I can afford to do what I do. You know, this isn't light bill money. You know, it's not like that. It's all good. So, and again, it's their money at this
Exactly. At
point
that point,
too.
that is their money for
It
sure.
is their money. So, yeah, I need to post about that, and I will post about that because it's important to me to be transparent about that and what this show is about
I
and
was about to,
longer term.
do they allow cameras at the casino you go to?
I don't know if they. I don't know if they would. I don't think they would do
That'd be
that.
too.
I am surprised. Some are really shitty about phones, and
Mm,
some not. You can lay your phone right there. I've even
you know,
texted,
yeah.
and yeah, yeah.
Because I watch a lot of like poker YouTubers and whatnot. And they usually have like people come in with them and they'll record them on the side. So if they do allow recording in the casino, maybe I can follow
Well, you
you in there with the
probably have
camera.
to ask,
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
and I wouldn't be against it. That'd be cool.
That'd be a nice little short little episode there.
Yeah, or even just to ask, just to get some footage to put it in
Yeah, just like
into,
small little
into
bits.
the video, you know, to put into our opening and stuff. That would be cool too. Because I
That's
got
actually
some
super
ideas
smart.
about
Yeah,
that.
I actually was gonna talk to you about it, but I'll talk to you later about it. It's just not that point right
We got ideas.
now.
We got ideas and just share about the things that I like, things that you like too. But most of the time it's going to be spent on testosterone I'm going to take at different times.
You know, I'm
Go
sorry to
ahead.
cut you off,
No,
but
go ahead.
because you know, I sit there and I rewatched a lot of the videos, editing them and whatnot. And I was really curious because I kept hearing you talk about testosterone, right? But I've actually never asked you like when was like the first time you got in, like what got you into it, like what is your story, like why are you so passionate about it? Like I've just been
Well,
thinking
it's
about it for a few
changed.
days, you know.
It's changed. When I was younger, I was actually at a gym that I'm 100% sure it was everywhere around me. What's shocking to me now is knowing who I was then and the people, and that one of the people was somebody I went to school with, that nobody approached me, that nobody ever said anything to me. I probably would have been fairly receptive in
To
my
the idea
early
of it.
20s, you know. I probably would have, but
So
I
so at
didn't.
what age did you first start?
Well, I didn't start. I was like 39, 40.
Oh wow,
Yeah.
really?
I was natty for a long time,
That
dude.
is crazy. I honestly, the way you're so passionate about testosterone, I would have definitely said
Yeah.
like
No.
early 20s for sure.
No. No.
So
I
how
was
what's oh wow, that is so crazy. Um yeah, so talk about before the testosterone, I guess. I'm
Yeah.
curious to like
Okay.
where was your
I
kind of
could
like
do that.
mindset on that and like
Well,
working out and like
you know, back then we didn't have anything like this.
yeah.
We didn't have anything like the Mike Israetels that you have. And I love Dr. Mike. He's phenomenal. And I don't know how I'm going to get him on our show because we don't have an audience yet.
It will happen one day.
But I want Mike Israetel on my show because I just love the guy. Maybe, you know, yeah, I'm not going to.
We'll send some message.
We'll
We'll
send
get in
some.
contact.
I
We'll get in
love that
contact.
dude.
We'll get in
He's just
contact.
so good. But we didn't have anything like that. We had bodybuilding magazines. And in these bodybuilding magazines, they promoted supplements, sometimes supplements that had names similar to steroids. And they tried to make you believe as a young person, and they would use these scientific words and say they did research and studies and stuff to make you believe that that's what these big giant guys who would be like Lee Haney at the time, you know, that's what they were taking. And maybe they were taking those supplements, but that's not what enabled them with their hard work and genetics to become who they became. Not at all. And so I tried different things, you know, legal things I could get at the nutritional store, the vitamin shop that was near me, and just tried every single thing they had.
And then was that like as soon as you started lifting, or was this like a year after you started
No,
lifting?
pretty
Like,
much early on in my early 20s. Yeah, after I got married. After I got married to Susan, I looked at my wedding photos
uh-huh.
and I was like, who the fuck is that dude? He's got chubby cheeks. And I had been athlete my whole life. You know, I wrestled, I played baseball. I didn't play baseball in high school, but I wrestled, I golfed. You know, I played football in junior high. I didn't play football in high school because our football team sucked ass. But I did golf, and I went from never having hit a ball on a golf course
uh-huh.
to and joining the team because I heard you got to play for free. I was a poor kid to my junior year making the varsity golf team,
That's
and
what we love to hear.
then loving golf for years and years. And still, if you look behind me, obviously I still love golf, even though I really haven't played much, you know, over the last few years. That is something I hope to change,
I was
especially
about to
out
say
here in
we'll get you
Arizona.
back into that. We'll
Yeah,
get you right
when
back into
especially
that.
I used to. That's one of the reasons I love Arizona and how I got to know Arizona so well,
A lot
as
of
I
golf
would take
courses.
golf trips out here.
Wow.
Yeah, for a long time, dude. I had no idea about Red Rock and
Oh, that
and
is so
that place.
beautiful.
Yeah, I
North
love
Arizona
that.
is the best part of
But
Arizona.
we'd come out here in a group, and half of the group would go sightseeing, and the rest of us would go to the
Like,
golf course. But I knew every fucking good golf course, right? But I never saw any of that shit until a few years ago. None of it is every great golf course and did that. But anyways, so I tried everything, and I did try something in my 20s that was called androstenedione. Androstenedione was over the counter. It's what Big Mac had in his locker and that they eventually banned.
okay.
Now, he may have also been taking testosterone, obviously, but he definitely was taking androstenedione, and it absolutely did work.
Mhm.
I only took it for a short period of time because I started taking it when they were banning it
Yeah.
and just trying to sell whatever they had left on the shelves and get rid of
Yeah.
it.
Yeah.
But it definitely was good and worked, and probably one of the most safest things that ever worked that you could buy over the counter that was actually worth your money, because almost everything you buy over the counter, unless it's a vitamin and you're taking it for those purposes, is just garbage. Just straight garbage is what they sell now and have for a long, long time. If it's not protein, creatine, you know, it's garbage, or a vitamin. It's just straight garbage. This new testosterone bullshit is just they're ripping people off, and it really, that does bother me. I've brought that up before and will always bring that up, and I'll challenge anybody on that kind of stuff because I just don't want to see people get ripped off. So I did those kind of things, and I dieted and I worked and I trained and I followed the workouts in the magazines and stuff, and I got in shape. I was probably 208 pounds
Wow.
at one point. And like when I graduated high school, I was 145 maybe. You know,
Jesus.
I wasn't big.
That's a little 60-pound difference.
And the first time I dieted and got in shape in my 20s after, you know, because I was riding around. I was in sales. I was riding in my car and eating fucking McDonald's and not
yeah.
thinking anything of it, because that's what we did. We didn't know we were going to get fat eating that shit. Nobody told us. And so driving around fat, and I'm like, what the fuck? This isn't me. I think I got up to probably the smallest waist. I was probably got down to 31, 32 waist and about 178 pounds.
Wow.
I went down to, and I haven't been there again ever. Low 180s I have. That I've done again several times, with much more size, obviously, than two. and even recently doing that and getting to that.
So
area.
then what first like
So
got you into the
so I was just interested, and then I decided when I had money as a financial advisor, I decided I wanted to try HGH, and I gave some money to a friend who had done some bodybuilding shows, and he took my money and his money and he sent it to some shit fucking country in Europe. I don't even remember which one. And we never got our money back and we didn't get any HGH. It was like $600 I lost. And then I tried to get it through the Palm Beach Rejuvenation Clinic down in Florida, because you would see these ads on TV where you would have these jacked doctors. Okay. Like, seriously, they'd have white hair, maybe a little balding, you know, not ugly dudes, but they'd be like ripped. Not huge, but they'd be ripped athletic bodies. You're like, oh, what the fuck? And I'm like, yeah, I want that. So I filled out the form online, and I think I paid $400 for that. And then from that information, they decided whether they were going to prescribe it to you or not.
Okay.
And of course, I qualified. But before I could send them, I think it was around $600 as well for the HGH, they were in the news because New York Yankee players had been getting HGH.
Gotcha.
And even though legal to be prescribed, you know, it wasn't okay for the Yankee players to be getting it, that was a banned substance for them. So I didn't follow through. And then I was involved, and we'll get into that story another time. I was involved in a road rage incident. And I don't know if I was the road rager or that guy was, or basically we both were. And I got into a confrontation with a redneck from Tennessee who was about, I don't know, 6'2", 230. And I had been working out with one of my employees 6 days a week, 5-6 days a week, easy, every day. We had a gym that we walked to 50 feet from our building, and we'd work out no less than an hour and a half and usually 2 hours every day. Natural, working out. We were strong, we were good, but I was actually in the midst of my alcoholism at that point.
Do you remember how big you were at that point?
210.
Okay.
And I was drinking, and like it was not good. And if I hadn't been working out, I'd have been 300 fucking pounds. Seriously, I'd have been a fat fuck.
Wow.
Yeah, definitely.
Wow.
That's the only thing that kept me from that. But I had some strength, I had some size, and in clothes I looked okay, and I was still a good-looking guy. Got a great face. I look cute. I still got a handsome face, but I was on the chubbier side, you know. And so I body slammed this guy. He shit his pants, and I started hammer fisting him. And as I was hammer fisting him, or as my attorney said later, you did not hammer fist this guy. You do not use that word. You use the fleshy part of your hand. Sometimes I love attorneys, sometimes I don't. But that was funny. And as I'm hammer fisting him, he pulls out a box cutter and stabs me 5 times. And one of the places he stabbed me was in my hand, and I have the scar today. And if it had been over a 1/4 inch, I'd have no use of my hand today. It would have cut off all the nerves. It had just been totally fucked. But it did damage my hand a lot. My tricep got cut off, basically. It was hanging, nasty, stabs to the back, leg, like 5 in total. And I had no idea that I was even being stabbed or cut.
That adrenaline.
One, it was, the adrenaline, and 2, it was sharp. I didn't even feel it, man, until I did the dumbest thing I had ever done, is I let him up. I figured I'm going to let him up. I pounded on the guy. If he does something again, I'll just take him down and beat on him again. I will never do that again. If I was they hated that I would say this in interviews after this happened, is I'd finish him. That's what I'd do. And I would do that today. I would never let somebody get up from something like that, being engaged like that. And it is what it is. I don't care if somebody likes how I say that or phrase that. But anyways, I was in physical therapy for 60 days. My hand ain't getting better. Like strength, nothing, it's not getting better. And I asked a friend who I'm not going to name, but he was a part-time cop. It's like, hey, can you help me get some HGH? And he said, yeah. And so he took $400 from me and he gave me this little white box that had these little vials with this white powder in the vials that was not cocaine, but these little white capped vials, and you'd have to put bacteriostatic water to it. Now, mind you, this is a white box. There is nothing on the white box. There's no label,
No
there's no
instructions.
company, there's nothing that says what it is, what the dosage is, nothing. The vials, clear vials, no labels. Was it Chinese? I don't know. What I do know is 60 days later from taking it, my hand went from about 20% to 80%. And that the only change was taking that HGH. And then I think I started taking Anavar only, which was totally stupid. I would never tell somebody to do that today. But I didn't have a me to go to, right? People would get you stuff, but they couldn't help you. They didn't tell you. And I had actually been reading about it at that point from my early 20s until then. I had not only been studying supplements and over-the-counter supplements, I had been studying gear, testosterone, and other compounds. It felt like forever. So I thought I knew some shit. And in reality, I didn't know dick. I just didn't. Like, life experience, so much different. And when you combine that with the knowledge is where I am today and why people come to me today for advice and how to do things as healthy and safe as possible.
So how long have you been,
15, 16 years.
15 or 16 years?
Yeah. And so the Anavar worked,
Mm-hmm.
okay, but it still was not the right way to take it. And then I'm like, all right, let's do testosterone. And I started. And I haven't been off of testosterone since I started. I don't do post-psychotherapy. Like, why would I? Why would I do a post-psychotherapy, get off and feel like shit? What I do is I do cycles. And when I'm not on a cycle, and I do take breaks from cycles, could be 4 weeks, 8 weeks, 16 weeks, could be whatever it is. I go back to TRT doses, and which is testosterone replacement therapy. I'm using testosterone cypionate when I do that. I could be using testosterone cypionate when I'm on a cycle too. And as I explained, I think we talked about this in the previous podcast, is the difference between the two is basically the dosage. That's basically the difference. And if you're on a cycle, not only the difference is the dosage, but at some point as you become more experienced, you might add other compounds in.
And so let me ask you,
Sure.
When it comes to experience, like you said, you've been doing it for about 15, 16 years.
Yeah.
So knowing where you are now with the whole testosterone thing, would you have wanted to get into it earlier, or do you think the way it played out in your life was the right way?
Well, I will say this. I think the good part of not starting earlier was I did a number of times very seriously diet very hard and push myself very, very hard to get what I could get out of my body naturally. It was frustrating. And again, I kind of wonder what would it have been like those last couple years of my 30s when I was working out so hard if I hadn't been drinking. If we removed the alcohol and I was training like I was training, because really that's what it was. It really wasn't food. I'm not saying my diet was the greatest, but it wasn't horrendous by any means. the calories that killed me, that were the waste, were 100% alcohol, 100%. Because I've always been steak and potatoes. I've always been about the protein. My whole life I've been
We
about
love some
protein.
protein. Oh yeah.
Yeah. So I do wonder where I would have been, and I do think that's what I lament now. Look, once you turn 18, you can do whatever the fuck you want, and you're gonna do whatever you want. And these young guys are doing it, and they're getting involved with SARMs, and I'm not a big fan of these SARMs. Do they work? Yes, they can work, but so many people are taking them wrong. And I think there are better options. I think testosterone is a better option. I think that SARMs are not safer. They're not healthier in any way. I think peptides are better. That's my personal view with all the experience that I have. And I'm really bothered by the fact that some of these guys are going into the gym, and within 6 months of stepping into the gym, 6 months of stepping into the gym, they're taking things like this. And I probably, if I had been presented the right opportunity, I probably would have too. I get it. If you don't have somebody to really guide you. But I really do think there is a benefit to taking your body naturally as far as it can go before you use. But I realize people aren't always going to do that. So I do think that's good that I did that. And maybe then I would have started in my late 20s. I can say this, though. It would be much different. I would not have done what I did when I was 39, 40 years old at 29. I would not have, and that's what I wouldn't advise somebody like you to do that.
That was actually my next question.
Yeah.
So again, I'm about 26 years old. If someone around my age were to come to you for advice, like what like, again, you say you don't like seeing someone 6 months into the gym, just
Right.
taking all this and this and that. So what's your approach if someone early 20s comes up to you and says, "Hey, getting into the gym and I really want to get into
I ask a
testosterone"?
lot of questions, what their goals are, what they've been doing, how long they've been training, and especially, a lot more people are using today who are not paid athletes, who are not people who maybe at this point aspire to be bodybuilders who step on stage, but just want to be the best they can be. People are using it more casually now, if that's a better way to maybe phrase it. But if you've been training long enough and you've been pushing it for a while and you're really set on doing it, my big thing is to get somebody to do a cycle that's going to be worth it to them and not just shut their testosterone down. Because what will happen is these guys will do cycles of 250 to 300 milligrams, which is basically either like a higher end TRT dose or super, super low dose for a cycle, beginning cycle. Beginning cycles to me are in the 400 to 500 milligram range, and I usually recommend 500 and usually recommend testosterone only. You can, in a first cycle, you don't have to do anything stupid. You don't have to do anything crazy. And if you bring up trend, I'm going to smack you in the head. Okay? Nobody needs to use that on a first cycle. That's just totally insane and stupid for people to even talk like that. So, but the other problem is, one problem is they do too low a dose. You're shutting your shit down. At any age, any man who injects testosterone, whether it be at a TRT dose or at a cycle dose, at about 7 weeks, you're shutting your shit off. Your body ain't making it anymore. So you're going to tell me you're going to do an 8 or 10 week cycle?
Is that a permanent thing?
No.
Okay.
Not necessarily. So 8 to 10 week cycle, you just shut your shit down and you're only going to do 8 weeks, 10 weeks. It takes a couple weeks to get your level once you start injecting for your levels to be where they're at, where you're going to start seeing some benefit if you're dieting right and working out hard. So And even 12 weeks, what are you going to do then? Usually, if you're doing 500 milligrams and it's 250 milligrams per ml, it's a 10 ml vial, that is going to be 10 shots, so it's going to last 5 weeks. Okay. It's going to last 5 weeks. So you're going to get 3 bottles and you're going to be halfway through the third bottle and stop taking it. Finish that shit off. You're not going to die.
Just wasting money at that
You
point.
wasted money. It's stupid. It'll
And
keep.
gains.
It'll keep. It'll keep. But 15 weeks is really good and really solid in my view. The biggest mistake these guys make, and it's almost daily that I get this and are dealing with guys, even older guys. I can understand younger guys, but holy fucking God. Guys are just doing a cycle and then just stopping. You just think magically your nuts are going to start working again? I talk about this in a way that people can understand it. So I talk about it like your nuts are little men. So you just sent your little men on vacation.
Yeah, they're the homies.
You sent the homies on vacation. And they're like, well, hey, Leo didn't take his shot today. They're like, oh, he just forgot. It's okay. We're in Mexico. We're partying. Yeah. So they're partying. They just keep partying. They stay on vacation because they're still expecting you to maybe shoot again. They don't know. They don't have a brain. Okay, your nuts don't have a brain. Your real brain isn't sending a signal to your nuts yet that says, hey, dude decided to stop. Y'all need to come back home and get to work. Hasn't happened yet. And even longer. And it can take a considerable time. And if you shut your testosterone down, your own natural production, and you're not injecting it anymore, if you aren't injecting it or making it, then how the fuck are you going to keep the muscle you just worked so hard for 15 weeks? How are you going to keep those gains? You're not.
Is that where that droopiness comes from? Like the pec droopiness?
No, that from more high estrogen.
Gotcha.
So what you're going to see is maybe somebody that gets big, a young dude that gains some size in a short period of time. You're like, and you see the zits and you're like, we know what he's doing. And then he stops and then maybe even more zits. And then, but he shrinks up. And you're like, and they do that up and down because they don't have what's called a post-cycle therapy. And I like to put another word in front of that, proper post-cycle therapy. There is one thing that works really, really well that if you do it starting a couple weeks after you've taken your last shot and or whatever period of time you need to let it kind of clear your system, is HCG. HCG is a hormone that will tell your nuts to get back to work. So it's really super important. It's also used in fertility and other things like that. But I think it's important to use HCG as a part of a post-cycle therapy. Not everybody does. And I think it's wrong, especially if you want to keep your gains. And then they also are going to use some type of anti-estrogen too, which could be a Novadex or, something else along those lines or similar. So yeah, that's what they need to do. Some of them just want to do Novadex after a cycle, but really the HCG is super, super important. And what I'm really trying to say is super important is knowing before you stick that needle in you the first time with that testosterone, knowing what you're going to do when that period of time is up.
So
it is so fucking important.
I guess that's
so
what I was
fucking
gonna ask you
important
more.
because guys have done that in their 20s and they come to me and they're 45 now telling me what they did when they were in college and they're low T now, and every single one of them did stupid shit. They took shit wrong, they didn't have a test base, and they didn't do a post-cycle therapy when they were done taking it. And so again, it's different for like somebody older like me who, was at a point where I was experiencing low T anyways. So I didn't, at that point, starting at 39, me doing testosterone as a cycle and then coming off and doing a post-cycle therapy would have brought my natural production back, but it would have brought it back to its lower level that it was at and would not have been good or healthy. So instead of doing a post-cycle therapy after a cycle, I continue to do testosterone just at a lower dose, which is at the TRT dose is what I like to call it.
So if someone's looking to get into it, what would you say is the time frame that they would have to commit basically to do all that?
Well, first thing is, even a younger person who may have no issues at all with their testosterone levels, I do really recommend, to really do it right, you might want to get tested. It would be the smart thing to do. So you know where all your other numbers are at. There's hematocrit, there's estradiol, there's a number of other things. It's good to have a baseline. And so that when you do the post-cycle therapy and you're bringing things back, at some point you can test again and say, this is what I was at, prior to using. Maybe you even do a blood test in the middle of your cycle to see how high
The
it's
spikes,
getting, where
yeah.
you're at. And especially if you're experiencing side effects, you would want to do that. And then do it again at the end when you get off to see, am I back to where I was previously? And there can be some fall off in some people are going to react differently. But it's again, you do have to have a plan. And the plan has to be either plan one or plan two, plan A or plan B. Plan A is simply a proper post-cycle therapy. Plan B is doing a TRT dose. What is not a plan is going cold turkey.
Cold turkey.
That's fucking not a plan. Do not do that. And if you can't afford to do these things and do them right, then wait till you can. It's not that fucking important, right? To do that. It's more important to do it right and to do it healthy, and it
Stay
can
healthy.
be. They want to demonize testosterone, and it's fucking bullshit. And I'm trying to push back on that, and people are doing it. They're going to do it anyways, no matter what I say or what anybody else says. So somebody ought to tell these motherfuckers how to do it the best way
So
and
they stay
healthiest
healthy.
way possible. Yeah, really. That's what it is.
So you talk about the cost. I'm not sure if like on average, what would one look to spend on about
You're
that?
probably you're looking for blood work. You're looking at between $100 and $200.
Yeah, all of
You
that.
can find online places to do that. I refer people to letsgetchecked.com a lot. For testosterone, for the testosterone that I use, which is Pro Performance Labs, you're looking at $85 a bottle, but you're looking at its quality pharmaceutical testosterone. It's not shit made in somebody's fucking sink, which if you're paying that much for sink stuff, you're getting ripped off. And I talked to somebody recently who was getting ripped off like that. No, sink stuff that some, redneck brothers started making in his trailer, you're looking probably 45, 50 bucks, for that, but I wouldn't use it. Like I said, I did what I did at the beginning with that HGH.
But it was
And I
different.
did it for a short period of time, but I never did that again. I'm like, I am not doing this. I want real shit. And that's kind of how I got so involved into doing this, and being such an advocate too, is finding out how bad the people were in the business, and, we heard stories back then, and I became a part of those stories about bringing it from Mexico here. And so, Mexicans, they fake a lot of shit in Mexico.
Very true.
If you go to Mexico and you're on the beach and they open up a box of Cohibas, I'm telling you, that Cohiba cigar is a Mexican fucking cigar with a Cohiba wrapper.
They printed that. No, 100%.
They printed that.
Oh, 100%.
Yes. And
It might not
up
actually be real
until
tobacco. Be honest with
actually
you.
not long ago, you could get some really good pharmaceuticals in Mexico, like as good a quality as you would get anywhere. But with this explosion over 5+ years now of fentanyl, you just can't trust anything. I don't even know if I would, trust getting a Z-Pack there anymore. And we used to pick that shit up when we'd go to Mexico, pick up a few Z-Packs. And now maybe if you're getting the Z-Pack at the airport, you could feel better about it. Because they have pharmacies, little pharmacies in the fucking airport.
I didn't know that.
Fuck yeah, dude. Yeah.
They get you right.
Yeah, that maybe. But there just came a point where, when we first started doing it, we trusted it. And then there came a point where it was just you didn't know what to trust anymore with that. And again, fentanyl being the big thing, because it's like these motherfuckers want to put that shit in everything. Everything. At first it was just the, putting fentanyl and heroin, putting fentanyl and Percocet stuff. These motherfuckers put fentanyl in anything now. Like, I don't get it.
What's that one commercial? Is it the red hot sauce? Yeah, I'll put that shit on everything.
Yeah. I don't know, man. It's crazy. But that was part of the thing. And I just, I wanted quality stuff. And I went searching for it. That's how I got involved in being passionate about, I started testing things, even the stuff we would get from Mexico. Nobody was testing that stuff back then. Now they sell test kits, but nobody did that when I was doing that in this business 15 years ago. But I was. We actually had access to a guy who played on a semi-pro football team. That was his day job, and we would give him product, and he would test it for us. That's what he did for.
It's a pretty unique side job right there, to be honest.
Yeah. Well, he's a football. He wanted some too. That's how it worked. So, yeah, my big thing is, I hope guys aren't doing it too soon. I hope that they just love the journey, because it is a beautiful journey to working out and training. And if you never want to use, testosterone or anything else, now I think if you need it, you'd be smart to, if you're low T. But if you still don't, you want to ride the natty wave all the way to the end, God bless you. I'm not, okay? But I'm not going to badmouth you and criticize you for doing that. But I'm also not going to take shit from you motherfuckers about what we do either, especially because you don't know. You don't know the risks and the rewards of this. You know what you read, or you think you know somebody at the gym, or somebody died. You don't know motherfucking shit. You just don't. And I'm not going to take shit from people like that don't know shit about it, and advice or what the dangers are, or yeah, all you have to do is find a Sam Sulik video and look at the comments under any Sam Sulik video, whether he posted it or some other motherfucker posted it. Okay, you're going to have a bunch of idiot comments by a bunch of dumb motherfuckers that look like shit. Like, yeah, don't do testosterone. Look like shit. Now, granted, there are guys that are in good physical condition. I've even met guys in their late 40s and 50s who had natural testosterone levels in excess of 900. And you don't see that very often, but it happens. And that's great. And if they don't want to do anything extra, that's totally cool too. It's all about the choices, but people demonizing this, yeah, that I'm not for. I'm not for the demonization of testosterone, because it's demonization of men. Testosterone is what makes a man a man. And the levels, and we'll get into this over time, and we'll probably get into it with some people that really, really know about how they've taken things from what they used to be 30, 40, 50 years ago, and they've moved what we call normal levels down further. And so even if a man gets on testosterone, and a lot of these doctors are pushing, levels of say 600 or 700. It's mediocre. You really doing all this bullshit to be fucking mediocre? Really? Really? That's just dumb as fuck. It is. And, Doc, get in the gym. Get in the gym. And be like the very best doctors, because food is, and how we eat is one of the most important things, along with resistance training, that we can do for long-term health and longevity for everyone in dealing with all diseases. Learn what we do is we provide sick care. We do not provide health care. We provide sick care. We provide bandages to people that are sick. That's what we do. We put Band-Aids on this shit. Let's make people better. Let's make people healthier. And let's stop saying that, hormones don't play a role in that, when they do. They do. And we have the technology to use these hormones and to be our very best. Why shouldn't we be? Why shouldn't we? We are never going back, or at least I hope we don't. We are never going back to 1850. We're not going back to getting behind an ox and plowing land. Getting up at 4 in the fucking morning and going out in the field. We're not going back to that. That was real man shit. When they hunted, they planted, they worked. And God bless you, farmers. I love y'all. I love the steaks you provide. But you motherfuckers are in air-conditioned tractors. All right? Listening to Jason Aldean. My big green John Deere, whatever the fuck that song is. My big green tractor. Get the fuck out of here. You're working. I'm not saying you're not working hard or you don't get up early, but it ain't the same.
It's not the same.
Let's not kid ourselves. It's not the same.
Changed a lot.
And then there's so many more jobs today that just don't take any of the physicality that they did years ago. There are still some. There's still some. And God bless y'all that do that kind of stuff.
100%.
And those guys want fucking testosterone too. Because I've worked with those motherfuckers. I've worked with those carpenters and those welders and that shit. I've worked with those guys. I've got clients that I work with that, go out in those big oil platforms and shit, out in the fucking ocean. Yeah. Those guys work and they want testosterone too.
Hell yeah.
So, look, we got to do what we got to do. And I just want to provide the information for people to be able to do it right and healthy. And this has been really enjoyable today. Hopefully you enjoyed this too.
This one was really good. We got to know a little bit more about you. And I think that's something that I'll try to start working on is try to probably ask a few more questions so that people get to know you a little bit better.
Yeah, that's not bad. That kind of worked out pretty good.
Yeah, I think
like
that really works because I feel like with me asking questions, we can get, stay on track a little bit better. Just a little bit better.
Keep me on track. Hey, Troy, he starts telling this. He goes, way the fuck over here.
Hey, you know what my problem is?
But most of the time, I bring it back.
I just sit here and listen, so I get distracted too, is the worst part. I don't have the power to self-control, to be like, hey, Troy, we need to get back on track. I'm going to work on that too.
That's awesome. Well, this is episode number 4 of the Outlaw Apostle Show. I'm Troy Neff. I've been your host. It was awesome. It's wonderful. I'm the fucking guy. See you next show.